One, go.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of The Other Side. Spring is in the air and so are we. Good evening, and I'm Bob Serba with my fellow host, Paul Fournier. How you doing tonight, Mr. Fournier?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm living the dream.
Well, let's get right into it. And we've had a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, we
I know
have.
we've got about 15 minutes before our guest comes in. That's Carl Doan.
Yeah.
Who sent a very detailed letter to our superintendent about IT problems and how we can help fix them. But let's get into discuss briefly for at least 15 minutes. Maybe we can go to it at
Sure.
the end. Is the last special school committee meeting where they've decided that they were going to hire MASC to lead us down the path of finding another superintendent, which we've already used these people once, correct?
Yeah, and that worked out
To
real
the
well
tune of
for
how
us.
much money?
10,000.
Okay. Do we know if it's going to be another 10 grand?
I could only guess that it would be 10,000.
Okay.
I can't imagine it would be less.
Have they put any feelers out there as far as people from the district, parents, teachers, taxpayers? What I find ironic, and it just drives me up a wall, is every time we open the paper, you see another school district is, oh, somebody else has got hired, somebody else has got hired. You never hear or read anything about MASC
No.
being involved in those searches.
No.
But if they are, what I find strange is how quickly things get done. Yet here we are still hanging on to an interim superintendent who has decided that he's going to get rid of two principals, bring in two interim principals, and put more burden on this district as interim superintendent, interim principal at Wire Village. Whether or not she's doing a good job is irrelevant, because apparently he doesn't like to give reviews for anybody.
No.
So we have an interim superintendent, we have an interim principal at Wyatt Village. Now we're going to have another interim at Lake Street and another interim possibly here at the high school. We don't know what direction that's. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 pieces of the puzzle going directly against DSAC's recommendation of stop the turnover, you need more stability. Correct?
The reason they said that was because in the last, I think it was the last 6 years, we've had at least 3 principals in 3 different schools.
Didn't we? Yeah, wasn't there like
Prouty,
a total of 7
Knox
in the last
Trail,
4 or something
and
like
I
that?
believe East Brookfield Elementary. I mean, the turnover has just been amazing. I mean, normally you have a principal, somebody's going to stay in the district for a decent amount of time, you know, and to have that kind of a turnover does not lend to the stability. And you know, when you're letting, and this is a totally separate issue, and we really can't talk about this because I know we're hearing rumors that there's a legal case pending, but how do you let somebody go without an evaluation? And I read in the paper that he told the paper, oh yes, she was given an evaluation. It's like, not that I'm aware of.
Well, that's something that she'd
And
have to.
that's
That's something she'd have to
we can deal
discuss
with down the road,
You know,
when that's no longer a
but
legal
I
issue.
just find it very strange that we run into this situation of having a superintendent, an interim superintendent, but we can't seem to follow a path or get into a direction of saying, all right, we need somebody permanent. Why are we still stuck in the interim superintendent stage?
Well, don't forget, back in December when Chris King first brought this up, and Chris said, you know, we should start looking at doing a superintendent search, and it was Mr. Cloutier at that time who was adamant that we don't need to do a superintendent search. It's going to take too long, and we've got all these things going on, and he just talked everybody into just blowing this thing off. Where if we had done that then, you know, looking back in hindsight, we'd be in a good position right now. We would have hired somebody, or we'd be in the process of hiring somebody. Because as you said, this process in all these other schools is going very smoothly, and I think part of your problem with MASC is my problem with MASC. They came forward with Dr. Naiman, and Dr. Naiman is a top 3 candidate, was what we were told when we were on that committee. So that doesn't, I mean, that can happen to anybody, but that doesn't lend a lot of credibility to what what you're paying for. You're paying $10,000. It's like, I think we could do just as good a job, and we could probably do it just as quickly. What I'm afraid of with this school committee, especially with this current leadership duo, is it's going to be you know, such a slow pace Whereas when we interviewed over like 2 or 3 nights in a row. We just got all the interviews out of the way instead of let's do one a week, or like they've done with everything else up to this point, with the budget process. So we're going to look at every single line item. They didn't look at any line items. Dr. Malvey came up with this along with, Julie Supinant.
Correct.
Everything just seems to get stalled when it comes to this committee and put off for another date. And that's not something we can afford to do with this. We need to hopefully have somebody in place by September.
Well, I think it's the leadership. By far, it's the leadership. It has nothing on top of the school committee, but you look at the very beginning, right at the top of this, the school district, and you look at the person who's supposed to be running it, Dr. Malvey, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think he has a whole lot of backing with some of the people in this district. I really don't.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, he's more comfortable with hiring people he knows.
Well, I think he's more comfortable in telling people what to do so he doesn't have to do it.
Well, you got to kind of question somebody's business acumen. This is a guy that's got 40 years experience, supposedly. He's a troubleshooter, interim superintendent, yet he didn't even know that the town, by normal rules, cannot ask for a capital gains debt exclusion for something that's going on for the school any more than the school can do it for the town. That's number one. Number two, you got the fact that Dr. Malvey finally rolled out a decent IT package in the new leader tonight. And you and I talked about this briefly before the show. It was very comprehensive. It laid everything out. My question is, why didn't we get this at the beginning? We could have cut to the chase. We could have cut out all this techno gobble, that's going on that nobody understands. All we get is all this, like I said before, the school committee, the select board got a half-page thing, and it said we need 600 computers, we need so many switches, we need so many servers. That was it.
I think it was a total of 9 sentences. If I
yeah, it wasn't.
A paragraph of 3 sentences, a paragraph of 3, and a paragraph of 3, which unfortunately does not lend any credibility as far as towards the taxpayers.
Oh, not at all.
Or the select boards.
None in the least.
You know what I mean?
It was a kind of a train wreck.
It's not anything that will give anybody any type of comfortability in voting for anything, and unfortunately it just constantly seems to be the direction that we're going in. You go back to the last October in the override and that debacle of a public meeting at the high school, which was just totally out of control. But you put this on top of all the other stuff, and it's like, I'm sorry, that's just not, what I see is not being proactive.
Not at all. Not at all.
What I see is not moving the district forward. What I see is somebody who's here who is just playing his time, hoping to limp this through. And I think the biggest problem is he's found it very difficult to get things done because of the attitudes of the people in the towns, where before, they've been taken for a ride. And they don't want to be taken for a ride. Show us where the money's going.
He doesn't understand the history.
You know what I mean? And I think what he thought was going to happen is he was going to come in on the white horse, save the day with a couple of overrides, and go off into the sunset to the next district. Because if you do some research, that's kind of how it went in most of the places that he went, except for the town of Oxford.
5 months.
Which didn't lend very well to his credibility, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, this segues nicely into our interview tonight with our special guest, Carl Doan. Good evening, Carl. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you coming in. Carl came to our attention not too long ago. He had sent a letter dated on April 5th to Dr. Malvey. It was a very well thought out letter, very well written letter, basically questioning some of the issues of technology, asking where some of the money was going, asking for specifications. So I think what I'll do is throw this over to Carl and basically ask you, how did you get involved with this and get your name in front of the superintendent? Was it the letter that initially got this conversation started between you and Dr. Malvey?
Well, it was in the new leader, and my daughter attends one of the schools in Spencer, so they were talking about when Windows NT, when Microsoft decided to stop and support Windows NT, Windows XP, and they had to purchase all new computers. So they had put on there that at that time I'd read, I believe it was in the new leader, that it was going to be 800 computers that they were going to have to purchase. and they had put in that they were going to upgrade some of them because obviously, you know, you can get by with a little bit with just new memory, a hard drive, and a new operating system. And maybe the number that was in the new leader was wrong, or I misinterpreted a number. But the number that I saw was they were requesting for over 100,000. So that may have been adding in other things. But I was kind of thrown back to say a little bit to say $100,000 to upgrade, you know, 800 computers or even 400 computers. That was just pretty high, extremely high to me. So I built computers for a long time. I built my son one a couple years ago, and I work in the IT area, so I know pretty much, you know, what something should cost. I have a good idea, and I know how to find it. And you know, on the internet, you can find anything you want. So I just sat down and said, you know, 800 computers or 400 computers, and figured out, you know, if they wanted to get 3 gig of RAM, upgrade the hard drives, and get a new operating system, Windows 8, you know, about what it would cost. I went on Crucial.com, a couple other sites to see how much it would cost, and that's what I put in the email because no matter what I did, I couldn't come up with an amount even remotely close. So I was just wondering, you know, where are they getting their prices from? You know, who's doing this for them? Because if it was that amount, that was kind of a little bit too much for profit. You know, you're talking over 100% profit, and you know, it wouldn't take that long to do it yourself, for somebody to do it in the school. But it was also just, for me, more was, why was anybody paying attention in the town? Where was the school committee? Where was this, you know, the people that, you know, in the town selectmen board, the board of selectmen, or anybody like that? You know, why is anybody paying attention that you have this huge expense of 800 computers? You have 50, I forget how many servers they want, new servers, all the switches, everything, and they just suddenly, you know, decide at the last minute reactive, like, oh no, now our kids don't have any internet access in the school because somebody wasn't paying attention. So what do? They throw out these huge numbers to people, and the people in town just don't have that money. And what I got back finally, when I got back from a response, was very little. Actually, I had to call the superintendent and kind of plead with him for some more information, because all I basically asked for was something that should be available to anybody in the public, since it is the citizens of Spencer or whatever, you know, in East Brookfield that are paying for this. We should be able to see a receipt or a bid form on what they are really asking for and what they're getting and what the prices are. And could not get that to this day. I finally got, you know, a list of 400 computers that they want, or 450. The number of switches that they needed, the number of servers that they needed. But it took a long time to get, and again, it was just in little, dribs and drabs of information coming out. Still never received a copy of
The RFP.
of the RFP. You know, they don't have to put the name of the company on. If they want to put the name of the supplier on that,
They can
blank
redact
it up. Absolutely, that I have no problem with. But we should be able to see that money. I mean, they are asking for a tremendous amount of money from people in this town that we don't have the money right now. I mean, you're talking about this year. You get your normal 2.5% rate increase, anyways, for that they normally can do automatically in your property taxes. Talking about raising the price for a sticker for the transfer station, the price for the bags, for the trash bags, you know, all these overrides. And what people don't realize is that, you know, this goes to the citizens of the town. We just don't have the money. And it's going to hurt the town more and more, because I'm not positive of why the revenue dropped so dramatically in the town, but, you know, it usually stands to reason is a lot of times it's either people are moving out of town or businesses aren't making it into town. So you need the businesses to give you the money, because they're gonna, you know, employ your people in town. They're the ones that for the money that they give in taxes, you get the best out of them, because their requirement for services usually are pretty low. They're not sending any of their, you know, they don't have any kids going to school. they don't have, they're not a real drain on the town services for the amount of money that they're putting in and the amount of money that they're contributing through, people in the town going out to eat, just doing stuff in the town. So we're losing all this money, and once again they're coming up with this huge amount of money, asking for this money, and when you talk to them, you kind of get the same.
Runaround?
Well, you get a runaround, but you get the same kind of, and it sounds like you get a really poor attitude of, well, what are you going to do? It's for the kids. It's you're just hurting the kids. Your people in town are just, they make it out like we're the evil people in the town, that we're just so money misers. We don't want to give up any money to the town, to the school and to the other services in the town. And it's not that. It's just you've maxed out the people. I mean, since 2009? Well, actually, a couple of years before that, and a couple of years after the Bush administration, the economy has been horrible. I mean, we are just, people's salaries are going down. People, you're talking about a $500 increase in people's property taxes, and they make it sound like, oh, it's only $500. Well, if you take somebody that's working out there in the private industry, not in the public, but in the private industry, average they're making $50,000 a year. A 1% increase, if they're lucky, that they got not last year for a raise, that's only $500. Now you take out the taxes and everything else. These people are going backwards. You're actually going backwards in money. You're not going ahead. And all it's going to do is hurt this town. And when I was talking about, what we're getting into in Massachusetts is like a death spiral, because what we're doing is we're increasing the taxes so much, and people are being squeezed even more and more and more, so they have less income. So the thing that they do is either they move out of the state, which we know states like Texas and Florida and there's other states that are increasing their population at the expense of like California, Massachusetts, and all the other states. We're moving out, so we have less people paying in to the tax base. So now you have the next year you have another come along and say, oh, we need all this extra money because we have to give out these automatic raises and these automatic cost of livings to everybody. So you have even less money in the pot. So now you have no other choice but to raise the taxes, because nobody's going to cut. I mean,
you're absolutely right. It's a vicious circle that, and we're not the only school district that's in this way.
Yeah.
And part of the problem that why some of the school districts are in this problem is the lack of funding from both the state and the feds. Or they'll give you some funding, and then they'll take it away.
Well, I had mentioned about that, and I was talking before about it, was, as soon as the mention comes up that we may either have to cut teachers or maybe not give them as much of a raise as they may want to, you have everybody in the union, they're all out there screaming and yelling. They're all out there, because they're looking for what, they're putting up, they're representing themselves. So that's fine. That's what they should be doing, because that's their job. But yet, the Massachusetts government, we've been putting more money in taxes, and yet every single year our local aid goes down. And why is that? I mean, why instead of going and yelling at and getting upset at the people in the town because you see all the signs in the town saying no overrides, absolutely no more overrides, why aren't they banging on Ian Gopi's door? Why aren't they banging on Stephen Brewer's door? Why aren't they banging on the governor's door down there in Boston and saying, how come every year we're giving you more money, but we're getting less back? And matter of fact, on this year's budget process, they've even gone as far as saying they put completely out of bounds by some made-up rule they passed that this year that during the budget process you cannot even
you can't argue it.
You cannot even bring up the fact about local aid. So they're just sitting down there saying thank you very much. And if you want to see what's going on, everyone thinks
Stop paying. That's the only way you can do it.
Right.
Stop paying.
Let me know how that works out for you.
What are they going to do?
Take your house.
That's right.
Yeah,
Are they going to take everybody's house and do what with it?
Yeah,
And
they won't hesitate.
You know,
Oh, right. And
but
I mean, you look at California. Look at California, for example. Look at all the people out there in those cities that have gone bankrupt. And everybody says, oh, that's California. You have Detroit. Detroit's a complete mess. They're gone. I mean, they might as well be bankrupt. You have in Massachusetts, we have Springfield. How many times they've been in bankruptcy? They're under, I don't know if they're still under, but they were at one point being run by
Well,
the
that's
state.
the problem. That's the
and
problem.
you have Lawrence.
That's why the emphasis when you have something as important as education,
Yep.
and like you guys are both going to agree, we're getting less money, we're getting more unfunded mandates, and you and I both know this from being on a school committee. It's always the constant pressure, and like I think Adam did a phenomenal job when he did. Adam Goddard, our town manager, did a phenomenal job rolling this thing out at the last public meeting they had right before the town meeting, and he said, look, we've lost $750,000 over the last 3 years in local aid. The town assessments and the what the schools require every year exceeds 2.5 by at least 4 or 5%. Okay, so you got 2.5%, you can raise it, but the bite on the school end is 5.5 to 6%. So to me, the absolute emphasis needs to be put. If you're going to put a debt exclusion or an override or anything that's going to increase people's taxes, you damn well better go out and sell it. You
Right.
better
Well,
convince
it's
me
right.
in no
Never
uncertain
mind.
terms why we need this.
I get selling it is maybe the proper term, but the verbiage should be, you better explain it A through Z.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to get for the $630,000 debt exclusion. This is what we're going to get.
And I have no heartache with voting for a debt exclusion for the computers because I know they need it. But I like you, Carl, I'm ticked off because it's like, Dr. Melby's been here since July. He's known about this since July. This is the #1 problem in our district and has been for the last, since, well, God, before 2010 when I got on. Our computers were 10 years old in 2010, okay? And you know, you got to present this to people in a way that they're going to look at this and say, you know, and people in Spencer will vote for it if it's for education and you can show them that their money's being spent properly. In fact, there's a graphic up right now. Pardon me, this is basically what they got. This is what the selectmen got, and it was like no line items, no spreadsheet, no price per unit. Carl, in your letter dating back to April 5th, you say on here, I'm just asking as a town resident for the RFP, which is a request for purchase, a request for proposal that was sent out to get quoted prices on these items so I can see this amount that can be reduced. And you run into a stone wall.
Absolutely. They will, like I said, to this day, they will not give it to me. They act as though that it's, you know, it's their private information, and you know, it's not like I'm going to a private company.
No.
You know, it's like I'm going down, you know, down the street to McDonald's or Big Y or Price Chopper and say, I want to see your books, because they're a private company. I don't have any rights to see their books. But when you're asking for people in town to spend additional money, you should have no problem at all opening up the books to show you that, you know, we're going to want $7,000 for a server. Well, what is that server? What kind of, you know, specs is it? Do you really need that much?
And
right
these are
now?
questions you were asking
Right.
throughout this letter. I mean, it was a very well done letter, and you and I spoke on the phone at length over this, and you said the same thing.
Yeah.
Show me what you're what you're looking for. I mean, just some of the questions you asked. It's amazing. The price the price of a 500 gigabyte Seagate or Western Digital drive is in a $50 price. There's a 1 terabyte is only $65. So you can always get the 1 terabyte, never have to worry about space again. These are things that you know, and I've seen other IT guys get up at the town meetings and up at the school committee meetings and ask questions. In fact, Kyle Sullivan, who's an IT guy who does a lot of work here at the studio, he volunteers his time here, and he's an IT guy like yourself. And he got up at the town meeting and asked Dr. Melby, he says, he said, I have a question for the IT individual. And he asked the question, I can't remember exactly what the question pertained to. And Dr. Melby starts to get up, and Kyle turned around and said, I was talking to your IT guy. And Dr. Melby turns around, looks at the speaker and goes, Mr. Moderator, he goes, can I speak? Can I speak? And it's like, we don't want to hear you speak. We know you know as much about computers as I do, which is to say I know where the on button is, you know? And I know where I used to be able to put the floppy that I don't have to do that anymore. And it's like he gets up there and it's just this absolute obstinate attitude of, how dare you question me? And it's like, you're not a superintendent. A superintendent is somebody that's going to listen to people. And if somebody like yourself is willing to come forward and say, listen, I'm willing to help you save some money here. Just give me some information and maybe I can shave some money off of this. I mean, you say that throughout the letter. I mean, it's I was absolutely stunned, and after talking to you on the phone, I was like, you know, I got to get you on this show because it's
And-
like it's amazing.
It wasn't like I put in that letter. I am not a salesperson at the company I work at. I am not going to make any money on this. This is not something
said that in the letter.
You think I'm going to make, a percent or something on, on the amount of money. I am not looking to make any money at all. All I'm just doing is saying, can we just take a look? Maybe we don't save any money, but is it going to hurt to go out there? Because I know what the state bid process is. That is, it's as corrupt as you want. I mean, just look at the big dig. That's all we have to look at. Is
Oh yeah.
by the time you ask for a price on something, by the time it gets through everybody's fingers and gets paid out along
Everybody
the way,
gets a bite.
That's right. That price has gone up dramatically.
That's when I heard state bid list. I started
Yeah.
laughing. I'm like, Jesus, why don't you just ask? You know, when I was in the Air Force, we'd send out for these little bulbs, these anti-collision light bulbs that are 15-cent bulbs. We paid like $50 for. That's the state bid, and these are government approved contractors who supply these. And it's like it's the same thing with the state. And I've never seen a state as corrupt as this state. I mean,
Oh,
Jesus.
I bet you could pretty much go to any state in this country and you'd run into the same situation.
Oh, Massachusetts is amazing, and because it's such a democratic state, you think that they'd be a little more cognizant of spending people's money. No.
Yeah, you got to take care of your brother.
Like a drunken sailor.
You
It's
got
like,
to take care of your brother.
If you want to talk about, just look at the court case that started today down in Boston with the nepotism in the, I think it's in the, not the prisons, the parole system.
Oh,
shocked.
jeez.
I mean, it is huge. You listen to this. I mean, they have everybody. I mean, their wives, their girlfriends, their brothers, brother-in-laws. I mean, they're not even people that are even remotely
Qualified.
qualified. Yes,
It's like-
they're just putting these people in. They're putting in. They had people putting in that were drug addicts in charge of people on parole that were drug dealers. And surprise, surprise, the guy gets fired because he got caught with drugs again.
well, that's what kills me with the school system. It's like I listened to Dr. Malvey speaking, especially when we had DSAC came in, and you and I were at that meeting, and it's just like, everybody knows everybody, and it's like, nobody's going to go against anybody that they went to school with or they work with in another district, and it's like I almost think that in certain cases with education, with that upper echelon of superintendents, I actually feel like in some cases you can actually exceed your grasp. You can actually be in a situation where maybe you're not qualified, but it's kind of like the military. They're going to let you slide through because you're a good old boy. You're one of our. We've known you for years. It's like that's okay.
It's the great Oz.
I mean, Oxford hired Dr. Malvey. Within 5 months, they kicked him to the curb. And it was like it takes an overwhelming vote to do that, and they had no problem. So the only thing I can figure is they must have known something faster than we did, because at this point I'm extremely disappointed, and we've been asking for a no confidence vote because if a citizen can't get information, I mean I expect to be blocked.
Yeah, well, this is but this is a citizen who has put forth the effort.
I know.
Okay, put forth the effort of trying to save the district, even if it's a penny. Trying to save the district a little bit of money. Right? And at least making the effort to say, hey, listen, you guys, you're going down the wrong path here. Perhaps you're going down the wrong
Right,
path.
we don't even know yet.
We don't even know yet. But at least give me some information so I can kind of help you guys out, and you don't get anything back. Kyle, real quick, what's the difference between switches and servers?
The servers are, like you can use them for anything. Print servers, to be file servers where you store all your data, not on your local PC. It's just it's like a job of it. You could actually, not to get too technical, but I mean, you could take your own home PC and make it act like a server. All it's doing is just different computers are connected to it. So
you have this box somewhere in one school or a couple boxes.
Yeah.
And the information from that PC goes back to that box, gets stored there. Then that would leave extra. You would have more space on that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, the idea is that you
Well, I guess
your work.
my question is, do you need the tower?
Yeah, you do, because the tower, you're going to have your operating system. You're going to have like Windows 8. You're going to have all your local programs. If I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to buy like Microsoft Office, I know they have that listed as some software they need. You can get Microsoft Office installed locally on your local drives or on your local
And
PC.
you couldn't
or
do
can
that.
have it on
You
your-
couldn't do that with the server, and then just have let the server actually be the tower.
Yeah, you could, but the idea is the server is they have a whole bunch of PCs coming into it to work off of that. Try not to get won't get too tangled by me, but basically that's where they're all going. And then that server, you can have access to, like, for example, like if you want to go to your internet, other servers, you can, instead of having, a printer on every person's desk and connect it in the back to your box for every kid.
Just network
you
it
have
back to the server.
Right, so it'll send the request to the server, and the server will say, the printer that's in that particular room, print out this person's job. I mean, and the switches, they're just, they're not anything like, like a computer, like a box like you think. They're just sending information, switching things, sending it to different areas. And those, if you looked at them, they wouldn't look like a PC at all. They're not going to look like anybody knows. But you do need them. I mean, because the speed, and who knows how old the other ones are. There's it's kind of tough to get any information out of. Maybe right now they didn't need all the new switches. Maybe they didn't need all the new servers. They could have gotten by for maybe another year, and then purchase some more next year. The thing that I don't like is, and I've been through this with the town before. I mean, a couple of years ago when they purchased the new fire truck, they had to buy a new fire truck when that one failed on the way. And there was nothing wrong. I mean, there was nothing, they did need one. But there's no planning in this, and maybe all the towns are alike, but there is no planning in this town. When you buy a fire truck, and you know that the life expectancy is 15 years or whatever, don't wait for 15 years till it dies to go looking for the money.
That's what we do
is the
in this
problem
town.
with saying, I know this is planned obsolescence. I know this truck is going to go for hopefully 15 years. And maybe it's going to, you don't have any idea obviously what the price is, but put some money away every year in the budget and say, we know we're going to have this. So in 10 years when it goes down, we won't have to go ask everybody in the town for $1 million. We'll have half of it. That's what I'm talking about, the school system. They never, ever planned
There was
to replace
never
this stuff
and
at all. And there's no need for them to suddenly say to everyone in the school, oh, well, now you have no internet access. Now your computers are down because Microsoft decided on XP was going out. And it's just sort of like now we go to the town, and instead of just
That was a threat.
that's what I mean.
That was a propaganda.
This is what drives me crazy is they put the kids in the middle, and they use them. I don't care what this is probably unpopular to say, but they use them as pawns.
No, that's exactly
That's
what
exactly
it
what
was.
And they say
We've
they
had
go
this-
to us and say this. And
Listen, we've had this discussion a couple of times, and there's
Very
two things.
frustrating.
There's two things when it comes to state and federal budgets that get attacked. One is senior citizens, and the other one is education. And why do you suppose that is? Because those are the two positions that people will fight the hardest for to keep.
right.
So they know if they go after, because you don't want to go after the senior citizen. They've paid their dues. They've done what
Absolutely.
they've had to do. So we'll go to their rescue, and it's the same with the kids. So it's the people in the middle that for the lack of a better term, really get raked over. I guess is what it is. But they know those are the two things that get beat up first: the kids and seniors.
And Windows XP, from what I understand, actually got extended
And
because they can't just take it off the market. And I kept saying to I was talking to people because they're like, well, it's going to stop April 8th. That's it. We're shutting down everything down. We're pulling all the computers out. It's like, I'm sitting there going, Jesus, this is nothing but a scare tactic.
It
This
is.
is because it's to piss off parents, so parents are going to say, well, we got to have computers for the kids. I mean, and because it is an important part of the education. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
I mean, and to be fair, the town over the last couple of years has tried to set a capital needs budget. And they're trying to think ahead. Like they already know what purchases they need to make. The problem was last year they ended up losing almost $750,000 propping this thing up to not have the override last year, which is why you need the override this year. And I think they've done a great job just in terms of explaining why. Is it a tough economy? No, it's a crap economy. This economy is absolutely on its ass. There's no question. We're both self-employed, so it's like we feel this probably more than other people. But there's still
absolutely.
people out there that haven't had raises in years, that are paying more for health care. You know, it's like this. There's a lot of people, and this is I've never seen it in 58 years. The economy ever be so bad where people are like one illness away from losing their home.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
there's not a lot of wiggle room there. You're absolutely right. So to have something like this happen, it's a ridiculous situation. It's like you're preying on people's sympathies when you should be just treating us like some of the smart people that I think some of us are, and laying the plan out and saying, this is what we need. Here's a line item. Here's a spreadsheet. This is how much this is going to cost. And even as you've said, and a lot of other IT people have said, this should not have to cost this much, which brings me to my next question. Is $800 what we should be spending, or could we get just as good a quality product if we shopped around, like say on the open market?
Yeah, I mean, if you want the one question I had was the Lenovo computers that they purchased, and that was kind of a little question mark on why they needed them. They didn't go with the big hard drive. They went with 128 gig, but they also went with the very expensive solid state drives because solid state drives are a lot faster, so they'll boot up faster. The machine runs, but with Windows, Microsoft Windows, I mean that's just a hog, and it just gobbles up space when you install it. It's not like, and so I thought that was kind of strange that they went with those because one, they're going to be more expensive. You can buy a much bigger hard drive for, close to the same price, if not cheaper than solid state drive. So that was I wouldn't have. Well, where I work at, people were surprised they wouldn't have went with those either.
Really?
Yeah, the solid state drives, 120 is not much now. I mean, by the time you put Windows on, you put Microsoft Office, you got a bunch of kids on those things, you're going to gobble up that space in no time at all. You're going to be looking for space within a year, I bet, on those 128 gig ones. That's just way too small.
Wow.
So
That's why we wanted you in, because we needed somebody to explain this a little bit.
And so the 500 ones, those are actually cheaper. Those are the ones with the bigger hard drive, the HPs. You can get those for under maybe $650 easily, just on the open market. You go to CDW, you can get those on the open market because they're not getting monitors with them. I don't know, which maybe they got a good deal on the monitors, but it's kind of strange that they're buying the towers and the monitors separately.
Well, the monitors are paying $100 for, which I see that all the time on the internet. But it's like if you're buying in bulk like that,
Right.
you can get a much better price.
Well, that's why I was curious as to why they said they're paying $700 for each computer just for the tower,
And then $100 for the monitor.
then $100 for the monitors. You can usually get a better deal if you go to somebody and say, I want the monitor as a bundle, and and you'll get it for much cheaper because
Are
they're
they trying to
selling both parts.
are they trying to reuse some of the ones that are in the school?
That's what I understand. Is like 250 that they're trying to renovate them.
But that's
and
all the
upgrade 'em.
computers, though.
Yeah, that was the older computers. But they said they could bring at least 250, and then I think there was another 75. Dr. Melby talked about. So you're talking 325 to 350 computers we could recover. But even as you said, with the unit pricing you're talking about for hard drive and for memory and stuff like that, it's like, I mean, if we're talking about saving $150 a computer or whatever, that's money
significant.
you can spend
yeah.
someplace else, and it's like, don't just spend it because you can spend it. You're not a welfare recipient. This is like,
Right.
spend your money like frugally. Be smart about this and spend it in the proper directions. And I think that's what alarms me more than anything else.
It seems like, and you see it all the time, is what they do is they say, okay, we need this. So we're going to go for everything. We're going to go for as much as we possibly can, even though it may not be, overpriced or something. We're going to go for as much as we can because this may be our only chance to get it. So they go for everything, and then, it's sort of like saying, I'm going to, go and buy a car or something like that, and you're going to pay $15,000 for the car, but as soon as the guy goes and talks to his
Exactly.
manager, all of a sudden you come back and say, you know what, I got a great deal for you. I can give you this for $14,000 because my manager gave me permission. So now it's like, oh, I just saved $1,000. Like, no, not really. You didn't save anything really because, it's that
It's
old,
already built in.
right. It's that old, bait and switch type thing, the shell game where, here, I'll say it's this much, but then I'll make it sound like I'm doing such a nice job for it. And look, all of a sudden we saved you all this money, and now we only need this much. And it's just, it gets kind of irritating, or kind of like you get mad because they think you're that stupid to not realize what they're doing. They actually think that, oh, nobody's going to realize what we're doing here. And people are so dumb in the town that they're never going to catch on to what we're doing, right?
Well, the problem is they have caught on. That's the biggest problem. And you know what? It didn't take me long to catch on. It was because I was sitting down having dinner with this. We keep talking about this, but it's just the way it goes. I got involved with the high school and the renovation project and stuff like that. And I was sitting down at dinner one day, and I said to my wife, I said, "Oh, geez, you know, our kids have to go to 5 schools before they graduate from David Prouty." She's like, "What are you talking about?" And then I rattled them all off. I said, 5 schools. We have 2,000 kids in the district, or not even 1,800 kids in the district, and about 100 and change that graduate from Prouty, but we have to go to 5 schools. I said, talk about a lack of planning. You know, because Wire Village, and I know people hate me for bringing it up, but that should have been a K through 6. You would have got rid of Lake Street. You would have got Maple Street. You would have had virtually 3 brand new schools in the district: East Brookfield, Wire Village, Knox Trail. Then you would have just had to concentrate on David Prouty. But that's the way this whole district
Whole town's
runs.
always run.
I have my background is plumbing, heating, facilities, that type of thing. So when I first got on the school committee, that's kind of what I focused on, because of what I saw was a lack of preventive maintenance.
Yep.
And it was always
Cost you more in the
Band-Aid,
end.
Band-Aid,
Yep.
Band-Aid, 10 grand. Band-Aid, 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 15,000. Instead of taking care of the problem right from the get-go, you know? And then when you delve into even more stuff as far as what's in the district, you found out that we have books that are 6, 8, 10, 12 years old. We've got science books in East Brookfield that don't even have an up-to-date periodic table in them. It's missing 3 elements. And this was, I don't know, they could have come up
And
with
this is acceptable.
you know?
It's
there was
not acceptable to the teachers.
No.
It's not acceptable to teachers at all. But when parents start finding out about this, it's creating more of an uproar. And that's part of the reason we started the show, was not to focus on school issues. But unfortunately, the school issue has been in the forefront and everything. I mean, it affects everything we do. It affects everything we talk about. It affects our spending. It affects our taxes to a large degree.
Yep.
And people want to know that the money's being spent wisely. And we consistently have asked for a forensic audit. And we can't get any traction. We can't get any traction from the selectmen. We can't get traction from the public. It's like, until you know where your money's going, it's hard to support something that nobody's going to explain to you where are we going for. I was reading an article tonight in the New Leader before we came in. I was eating dinner and I'm reading this article, and Lester just had a review by DSAC done, and it was a pretty good review. They're forward looking. They have an improvement plan. They have goals set up. We don't have any of that. Now, I understand Dr. Melby's an interim superintendent, but this is the kind of guy he's supposed to come in and take charge. This district is going right down the tubes right now, as far as I'm concerned. And that's only my opinion, but I think it's an opinion starting to be shared by a lot of people, especially if you see him at school committee meetings. And if you ask him a question, I mean, I've been told on at least 2 occasions now that I'm a liar, that I basically twist things, and I'm like, you know, how am I twisting? You're giving me half-truths. Well, that means that half of it's right. Now, for the next meeting, I may just ask him, can you break down which half I'm getting right so I can concentrate on the other half? I mean, it's, don't stand there and accuse me of something. Show me.
Right.
Show me where I'm doing it wrong. That just tells me you just don't want to hear it. And that's fine. I get that. I mean, that's part of our job, is to ask questions and hopefully get the information out to the public.
And to be crystal clear, neither one of us have any political aspirations.
No. Oh, neither do I.
So, there's some of that's been on Facebook and on
Yep.
Political things, and it says neither one of us have any political aspirations. I'm not doing this political. I'm doing this because I have 2 kids in this district, and I pay taxes in the town, and I want my kids to have the proper education by the proper teachers with the proper stuff.
And we don't, that's the other thing, is they want more money outside of this, but they wanted the big override last time, and they got obviously shot down. But the school systems are failing. It's not like if the school systems was educating our kids really well, the kids are coming out of the system really well, educated and going off, then it's no problem. You say, okay, fine. Yeah, we pay a little bit more for our school system and everything, but look at what we're getting out of it. This is the opposite. It's like, do you want to throw good money after bad? And it's sort of like, this is what we're doing. Think about how much money probably goes out of this town just based on how many kids school choice out. I mean, I don't know, I don't imagine too many kids school choice in. And I remember last year when, I forgot how many kids graduated from Knox Trail, but from 8th grade, and it was it was over 100, and it wasn't 50%, but it's pretty close to 50%. Didn't go to David Prouty. They may have went to Maypath or somewhere else, but that's not a good sign when you get people going. My daughter goes to school here, but my son, he doesn't go. He goes to a private school, only because of the school system was so bad when he was up at Wire Village that there wasn't any choice but to take him out, because it was just absolute a zoo up there.
Oh, Wild Village.
Yeah,
That's when I was on the school committee when that was going on. That was right at the end before they changed the principal up there.
But if they took those schools and ran them like private schools, you would see the school system run much cheaper and better. I mean, you can send, to a private school, not all of them. I mean, not talking like, probably maybe St. John, not like St. John's or something like that. But you can send a child to a private school and pay less than what we're paying per student in this town, and they're going to get a better education, most likely. And the schools are much better under control. Only, and it's not the teachers' fault. Not blaming the teachers, but it's only because, like in a private school, if you don't behave, you're out the door, and they'll find their money somewhere else. Unfortunately, you can't do that in public schools.
No, you can't.
Right. So you're left with people that just decide they want to disrupt. But it's just you talked about Leicester. I don't know how much. I mean, I grew up in Leicester. I don't remember how much difference in population it is. But unless the paper was wrong again, maybe it was wrong. But I remember, I think it was last night or the day before was in the paper, $15 or $16 million for their school budget.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
And we're at whatever, we're in the 20s, and they're still claiming hardship. And it's like, okay, Leicester has, all right, one less school. They only have 4 schools. They got Memorial, and the old they got the new high school and stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm not positive on their numbers, but I believe they're better. They get better rankings on the school rankings. But yet, how come they can do it for so much cheaper than us?
Well, then you read the paper this morning. I read the TNG, and I read this article, and Mr. Hayes and Mr. Cloutier, who were former selectmen in the town, both in complete agreement that even if we hire somebody with no experience, as long as they're a good fit for the district, I almost spit out my coffee. I'm like, are you serious? We've got 2 level 3 school systems. Right. We're in a fiscal crisis here. We have no computers right now in the school system, and you 2 guys want to hire somebody with no experience. Okay. Let me know how that works out. We're looking for leadership, and these 2 nitwits want to go and hire somebody we're not necessarily looking for experience. And Mr. Cloutier owns his own business. Now, are you going to tell me he'd hire a CEO for his company with no experience? No. But he'll do it for our school system? These are the guys who are the leaders on the school committee, which scares the hell out of me. Okay? On top of the fact that let's not hire a superintendent back in December. We were talking about that right before you walked in. Let's wait, because we can put that off. In the meantime, we got a guy making $150,000 a year who is not invested in our system. Whether he fails or not, he's going to go on and work at another school. Yeah, I guarantee you.
I told you that.
He's going to do another 5 or 6 years doing the Malvy tour and going to different schools and hitting them for $150,000 and carrying on. He's got a whole career worked out with this. And you know what? God love him. If you can do it, I'm not knocking it. But let's stop it with this interim thing. We're going to have an interim principal at Lake Street. We're going to have an interim principal possibly at Prouty. We got an interim principal at Wire Village. We still got 2 more positions open. So if anybody's interested, we might be looking for interim principals there too. It's ridiculous.
Does anybody ever sit back and say why we keep losing our people in the town? Why do we keep losing, principals and stuff? Why is everybody leaving? I mean, you got to look at that. You got to kind of say it gets kind of expensive to keep doing searches.
Fish rots from the head down.
Right. So you got to, but I mean,
that's
you got to learn from your mistakes and say,
we don't.
Oh, I know we don't.
We don't.
Obviously,
it's an amazing thing. It's like we always say it's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Right. Welcome to Spencer, because this just seems to be what we do, and we're damn good at it. Let me tell you, for anything from hiring building inspectors without the proper licensing to, I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, we hire people with no expectation for their competency, and I've seen this happen a lot, especially in town government, because they're easy to control. And that's exactly where I think Mr. Cloutier and Mr. Hayes could possibly be going with this. Is that, let's get somebody in there that we can mold. It's like, no, I don't want you guys molding anybody. I want to have a superintendent in here who's going to take charge, because it's a snake's nest in here. The school system, the stuff that goes on behind closed doors at this school system is absolutely ridiculous, and it needs to stop.
But I mean, hiring somebody that doesn't have any experience is just, you want somebody that you can hire that will just go in, and
going
the idea
backwards.
is to not have to do anything. That's what you're going to hire somebody for. You still watch them, but the idea is to have someone come in that's fully competent, that from day one, they already know, they already have a plan down, they can, meet with all the teachers, meet with all the parents, and say, yes, we got a lot of, challenges ahead. It's going to be tough times, but this is my plan, and this is how we're going to get to the end. And you give the people in the town a lot more confidence. And then when they need some more money, and they see that, okay, yeah, we accomplished this, we got our grades up, we got, whatever, we're keeping more
Set
of our kids in the
goals.
town, right? And then as you hit them, the people are more than happy to say, yeah, you're making progress. Sure, we'll give you money if you need it, because it's worth it. We're seeing some return on our investment.
Exactly.
And right now we're not. I mean, if you go to work in the private industry, and you have plans every year, at least every year, you meet with your manager or your boss or whatever, and you say, these are what I'm going to try to do next year. For my yearly, your yearly review. You're going to sit there and say, these are my goals that I want to, educate myself on, learn some different language for me, or learn some new technology that could benefit. But that's how you get ahead. And then next year they say, yeah, you met your goals, you did this, and that's how you get your raises. If you went into work and said, I'm just going to, not do anything, and I'm not going to have any goals, and you're just going to have to take,
Take my word for it.
right, basically, yeah, take my word for what I'm doing is right, and don't bother me, don't come question me about my work. Then you'd be, obviously you'd be out the door faster than you'd finish your sentence, because they'd be, sorry, we're beholden to stockholders. Well, the people in the town are the stockholders of this town. We're the ones who, are buying every day. We're buying our shares in this town, but we're not getting a return on investments. I mean, if you went and told somebody in town, everybody in the town that said, go to your investments and say, I don't know if you have Microsoft or Apple or anybody, you name what company you have, and all of a sudden that share started dropping, like Twitter, for example. Twitter just has been dropping like crazy. People aren't going to be happy. I mean, they're going to show up at the next stock meeting with the board.
Looking for blood.
Right, and that whoever's in charge, is going to get thrown out. And that's what people should look at the town as. You're purchasing a piece of this town, and do you want to have money? Do you want your investment to grow, or do you not? And if it's not growing, if your investment's dropping, it's time to get rid of the people. It's time to do something different other than what we keep doing. That's what makes you so frustrated, is, like you said, about insanity. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I know a lot of people say, well, why don't you do something? Unfortunately, I work. I leave at my house at 6 and don't come home till about 7:30. So I mean, and it just don't. Unfortunately, my job is far away, is a good distance away for traveling. But what you need on this town, in every town, is you need people on the selectmen, or whoever, anywhere, the finance committee, everywhere, to come in and not it seems like the very first day after the election's over, they're already working on the next election. They're already thinking about when, am I going to get reelected? That's not what that's what you're not supposed to do when you go and get elected. You're supposed to go in there and do your job and represent the people of the town and say, if I do a good job, if I get elected for whatever post and I do a good job, I won't have to worry about my reelection, because the people are going to realize it and they're going to reelect me. Not this constant, worrying about getting elected. But nobody has the courage to do it.
Both of us learned very quickly that trying to get things accomplished in some parts of this town, this school district, are not the easiest things in the world. And you found out quickly that
Yeah.
stonewalling seems to be I think that's one of the things that they
Yeah.
teach in school is when you got to learn how to stonewall. You have to learn to give the wrong information instead of just being upfront and honest.
People can live with that.
So, just real quick, I know we probably don't have much time
Got
left.
about 4.5 minutes left.
All right, so real quick, we want to first of all thank you for coming in and explaining some of the stuff that we had questions on. But as far as what you see, do you think we can do better than what we have on the paperwork? Possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, there are
Okay.
some things that you could do better on.
So, and you took it upon yourself to write this email,
Yep.
right? You kind of put some figures together. You put the email together. You had some questions, and how long did it take?
Weeks. It took me weeks. I mean, to get the image, I had to keep writing emails and asking them, and then, like I said, I had to call them one day and just flee.
So
like,
here,
why is this such a problem?
Here's the problem with how this whole system operates, and what parents and taxpayers have to do to get involved in this and get answers. You've got a gentleman sitting here who took it upon himself to try and save the district some money, or maybe go in a different direction, or
Get involved.
something, get involved, and you have the leader of the district stonewalling and not getting back to him with any information. What kind of leadership is that? And if you guys are, if the parents and taxpayers of the town are happy with that kind of leadership, then sign him to a contract. Hey, but I'm not, and he's got to go.
Time for a vote of no confidence.
Yes, I'm all done.
Aaron, can you put up the graphic for yeah, there we go. Second Chance Animal Shelter. Golf tournament is Saturday, July 19th at 2:14. Time is at 8 o'clock, as you can see on the graphic. It's at Dunroman Country Club. If you've never been there, it's a great 9-hole golf course. It's a lot of fun down there.
$75 for golf and lunch. Includes 9 holes of 9-hole round of golf, a meal, cart, goodie bag, cooler, and a limit of 72 tickets.
Yep.
So there's only going to be a limit
She
of
said they
72
normally
people.
sell out. Cheryl and Joe
Okay.
said they always sell out.
Lunch only, if you want to come down, is $35. You get prime rib or a vegetarian meal. Limit of 75 tickets. This goes to a good cause. You've got 2 people who have
They were great.
taken on a lot of. It started as a very small thing and has blown up and expanded to this massive undertaking. And they really need our help, your help, anybody's help who's willing to go play in golf. How much time do we have left?
About 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, the other thing we have is the David Prouty High School 2014 Art Show. Be there or be square. We don't have a graphic for that, right?
No.
It's spring concert and project fair. Artist reception and award ceremony Wednesday, May 14th, 5 to 6 p.m., the front lobby of the high school. The award ceremony's at 5:30, concert at 7. Everyone welcome. And I'm guessing if this is anywhere near half as good as the play that they just did, I'm sure this
All
is going
Shook Up? Yeah.
All Shook Up. I'm sure this is going to be fantastic. So, again, that's the art show, 2014 art show, David Prouty High School. Wednesday, May 14th, 5 to 6 p.m. in the front lobby of the high school. I've seen it before.
Mr. Fournier, final thoughts.
Final thoughts are we need parents, and we need teachers, and we need paraprofessionals to get involved in this PTO. That's my final thought. We need this PTO, we need to get it off the ground, and we need to stand up and get a voice for these people.
I can't argue. I think people are worried about losing their jobs if they show up.
Nobody's going to lose it. You're going to fire everybody? 170 teachers plus paraprofessionals
Dr. Melby has
and aides.
has
You got to
more than-
fire everybody?
He has more than a few people concerned for their jobs at this point. Let's
You
put
know?
it that way.
I think we've posted
been
a
hearing
couple
that
of
for
things.
some time, man.
I think we've posted a couple of things on Facebook. I've got a couple of texts over the last couple of days. It's ridiculous. You can't. How can you enjoy going to work? How can you enjoy going to work and fear for your job, and be able to teach? You know. So
that's not
poor leadership. Poor leadership. He's got to go.
I think it's time for a no confidence vote.
I
I
absolutely.
would only hope that the people, that the teachers in town would just get behind this and just say, enough is enough. You know, we've had enough. I mean, this is a train wreck at best. And the comment about, hiring somebody with no experience is an absolutely ludicrous comment.
It's going backwards.
And it's a lack of leadership.
It's going backwards. It's just going to compound. This is
ridiculous.
the snowball rolling down the hill.
Well, folks, that'll do it for tonight. I want to thank our guest, Carl Doan. Also thank Mr. Cote and Mr. Keys in the booth, and my partner here, Mr. Fournier. And thanks a lot. We'll see you folks next time.
2 weeks.
Have a good night.